So here we're going to be looking at section 25.2, solving square root equations. In your Delta Math homework, there are 3 sections. The first section is going to have problems that are like this one right here. So it's going to be a fairly straightforward problem. I'm trying to solve for x, which means I need to get the x all by itself. The problem is the x is inside of a square root symbol. So when you have something like that, I've got to move things away from the square root symbol before I can get rid of the things with the square root symbol. So according to my notes, the first step is, and this is kind of optional, is to circle the square root part. So the square root part has the x, so the 6x plus 7, square root of 6x plus 7, is the part you circle. Whatever's not inside the circle, you get and move it away. This is isolating the square root part. So the negative 9 is not inside the circle. You get rid of negative 9 by adding 9 to both sides, and you end up with this equation here. Once you've isolated the circled part, the square root part, we're going to remove the square root symbol with an exponent. So we're going to square both sides. So square this, square that. Now, a square root and a squared cancel each other out, so I'm just left with the inside 6x plus 7. And of course, 1 squared is 1. And then we solve for x if needed, and here we need it. So you get rid of the plus 7 with the minus 7, and you get rid of the times 6 with the divide by 6, and I get x equals negative 1. However, you have to always check for extraneous solutions. Sometimes when you do these square root problems, you get answers that give you error message. So we're going to check for extraneous solution. And the way you do that, you should simply take your answer and you plug it in to the original equation. So I've got x equals negative 1. I plug it in right here where I see the x. That gives me negative 6 plus 7. That's going to be 1. The square root of 1. And then over here, I'm going to move the 9 over here. The square root of 1 equals 1. And that is true. So the answer is indeed negative 1. So on Delta Math on the blank, I will type in negative 1. And that's how the first section is going to all look. There's only 3 questions. The second section is going to be more difficult. It's going to look more like this, where one side of the equation is going to have not just a number, but like an x and a number. And this is going to be more difficult because you will have to FOIL and probably factor. So here we go, same idea as before. We're going to circle the part that has the square root. So this part has a square root. I circle it up. I need to isolate it, but there's nothing over here with it, so that step is not needed. So we go straight to the next step on my notes, which is square both sides. So I get rid of a square root with a square. But if I square this side, I got to square this side. And it does not mean x squared minus 1 squared. It means x minus 1 quantity squared, which means it's x minus 1 and another x minus 1. Something squared means you write it twice. Now over here, the square root and the square just cancel each other out. You get 9 minus 9x. When you FOIL this out, you end up with x squared minus 2x plus 1. But to solve, you're going to have to factor. And when you factor, it has to have one side equals 0. So I had to move everything onto one side of the equal sign. So I'm going to move it all over here. I'm going to get rid of the 9 with a minus 9. I get rid of the negative 9x with a positive 9x. Line them up. Collect like terms. I get this. And this needs to solve by factoring. So once again, factoring comes into play. This is the easy reverse FOIL where you find factors of 8 that will subtract, because it's negative 8, factors of 8 that subtract to give me 7. And those factors are 1 and 8. Put the correct signs on them to make a positive 7. Negative 1 plus 8 is positive 7. Set those equal to 0 to find the solutions. So basically on these, you just change the sign. So there's my 2 answers, but I have to check them for extraneous. So I'm going to check the 1 first. I'm going to plug it into the original equation. Everywhere I see an x, I see it in 2 places, so I plug in the 1. And this gives me 9 minus 9, which is 0. And the square root of 0 is 1 minus 1, 0, is 0. So that answer is correct. So the x equals 1 is a correct answer. But when I plug in the negative 8 into the x's, this side gives me 9 minus 9, negative 9, well, 9 minus 9 times negative 8 is positive 72, which is a square root of 81, which is 9. But over here, when I plug it in, I get negative 9. The square root of 81 is 9, not negative 9. This answer is not correct. It is extraneous. So of these 2 choices, the only one that worked was the 1. So on the blank, you just type in a 1. And then the third section is going to be really tricky, ugly equations like this. And I don't want to try and teach you how to do those. I'll let you worry about that in pre-cal if they want to do them. But on these, I'm going to ask you to go to desmos.com and just type it in. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the front part and type it in as y equals. You just type in what you see. And then the back part of the equal sign, you're going to type in again another y equals and what you see. And it will draw you a picture. and then you just have to find where the two lines meet. If you'll click on it on desmos.com, it will show you an ordered pair. The answer is the x value. So the solution is x equals 1, and on the blank you will simply type in on Delta Math a 1. Here's another example. So here's the problem. I'm going to put this first part, the front part, as y equals. I'm going to put the back part as y equals. And this time the graphs don't intersect until way over here at 9. So you might have to slide around to find that intersection point. 9, 4 is the solution, but the answer is the x value, 9. So the solution is x equals 9. So on the answer blank on Delta Math, simply type 9. And this picture right here, this equation here, when you put this first part equal to y and the second part equal to y, you get a picture like this. And no matter how long you slide over and all, these lines will not intersect. They have no solution. So how do you write no solution on Delta Math? Well, there's two ways. You can put an empty set, just the little squiggly things, open and close squigglies. Or you can just leave it blank and hit the submit button. And it will automatically pop in this empty set. This one, the nice thing about the graphing is you don't have to check for extraneous because you're only going to see the solution. There may be another solution mathematically somewhere over in here, but did they intersect over in here? No, they did not. Therefore, that's an extraneous solution, so you don't have to worry about it.